Hi, my name is Mike O'Brien. I'm a Seattle City Council member and I want to talk to you about homelessness and some of the challenges we're facing in our community, specifically about people living in their vehicles. What we saw this year at the one night count won't surprise anybody, but the number of homeless people continues to increase in our city. And the number of people living in our vehicles is the biggest portion of that. This year, over 40% of people living on the streets were living in vehicles. That means nearly 1,000 vehicles on our street on any given night are shelter for someone, and there are over 1,500 people living in those vehicles. Now, the ultimate solution, of course, is we need to create more affordable housing so that everyone can live in a permanent shelter. But there's some challenges to that. Right now, there are thousands of people on wait lists trying to get into permanent affordable housing. While we're building affordable housing as fast as we can, we know it's simply not enough to solve the crisis we're in today. So what do we do in the meantime? I believe we need to create more safe lots for people who are currently living in vehicles so they can get off the streets, get the services they need, get stabilized, and work towards getting back into permanent housing. Now, a similar program I helped start back in 2012 called Road to Housing has been very successful, but at a very small scale. It's worked with just a handful of churches to help people get back into permanent housing. I'm proposing we take that program and expand it to have 30 to 50 lots citywide. Each lot would host 5 to 6 RVs or vehicles. We would connect those people with the services they need, get them off the street so they can be stabilized and stabilize our communities, and ultimately move those people into permanent housing as it becomes available. What we know is people that are trying to get their lives back together, when we ticket and tow them, we destabilize them, and it makes it worse for them and makes it worse for our entire community. I want to talk a little bit about some changes I think we should make and how we address that challenge. Now, I'm not talking about changing any of the laws around where RVs can park. Right now, RVs can only park in a select industrial areas in our city. That would stay the same. Similarly, right now we have rules that say you have to move your vehicle every 72 hours. We're not talking about changing those laws. But what we are talking about doing is giving our police, our parking enforcement, the municipal courts, or our service providers the flexibility so that when they're working with someone who's living in a vehicle, trying to resolve the crisis that they're in and stabilize them and get them back into permanent housing, they have flexibility so they're not constantly ticketing and ultimately towing them. When we tow someone who's living in a vehicle, what we do is we make their situation much worse and we make our situation much worse. We can do better than that in the city of Seattle. Here's what I'm going to be doing in the next month or two. I'm going to continue to work with police, parking enforcement, the courts, and our other departments to make sure that we have the resources available to address the challenges of people living in vehicles. We want to enforce the laws. I want to be clear that we have zero tolerance for violence or property destruction, and if we see that, the police are expected to act on that immediately. But we also want to recognize and have the resources available to transition these people into affordable housing. What you can do to help, if you have a parking lot somewhere that could host a handful of RVs, we'd love to hear from you because we're going to need more than just city land to address this. If you have some resources and can support one of the agencies that's providing food or shelter for people, please reach out to them. And similarly, if you have time on your hand and can volunteer with one of those organizations, I know they'd love to hear from you. This is a big challenge we have in front of us, and we're not going to solve it overnight. But I believe working together, we can make the city stabler and better for everybody in our community. Thank you.